Bishop Edward Burns. I'm the Bishop of the Diocese of Dallas, Texas, born and raised in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and ordained a priest well before a lot of you were born in 1983. And so I served in a couple parishes, and I served in our seminary and in our diocesan office or clergy. And then I went to the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops in Washington, D.C., served there for 10 years in the office for vocations and priestly formation, which then evolved into clergy, consecrated life, and vocations. I went back after 10 years to my home diocese of Pittsburgh, back into a position that I had prior to going to Washington, and that was rector of our seminary. So I was rector of St. Paul's Seminary, and I told my parents that I was once again rector of the seminary, to which my dad said to me, well, Ed, they're going to continue to assign you there until you get it right. So, you know, dads can always keep you humble. So, but it was while I was only 3 months into my second stint at the seminary as rector, I get a call from the Apostolic Nuncio saying that Pope Benedict XVI had appointed me the Bishop of Juneau, Alaska. And that was a jaw dropper. Actually, it was a double jaw dropper. The first jaw drop was the fact that I was being called a bishop. The second, Juneau, Alaska. So I had to pack up my ditties and go to Alaska. It was wonderful. It was an adventure. And so 7 years into my wonderful ministry in Juneau, Alaska, I get a call from the Apostolic Nuncio that Pope Francis had appointed me the Bishop of Dallas, Texas. And so I've been here for 3.5 years. So it has been a blast. The people here are fantastic.
So when you were asked to go to Alaska, what was the first thought that came to your mind? Like that you'll be in an igloo, or how did you prepare for it?
I had the nicest igloo on the block.
Yes, nice.
You know, I have to tell you this story. So I get to Alaska, and Juneau is the smallest diocese in the country, and I'm on the live radio show of KINY, morning talk show with Pete Karen. And Pete, I'm in the studio with the headsets on, sitting there with a microphone in front of me. He says, ladies and gentlemen, today, and everybody listens to the radio in Alaska. They're on their boats, they're out there camping, they're doing stuff. Everybody's listening to the radio. I am sitting there, and he says, ladies and gentlemen, we now have the new Bishop of the Diocese of Juneau, Alaska here, Bishop Edward Burns. Bishop, welcome to KINY. I said, thanks, Pete. Really do appreciate it. It's great to be here. So you're the new Bishop of Juneau, Alaska. Is that because of something you've done right or because of something you've done wrong? And I have to tell you, I was like speechless. I didn't know what to say to that. I just don't know.
Well, that is a good first question. Icebreaker, yeah. I guess.
So it was an adventure, and it was also a challenge. As you know, there's no roads to Juneau. You cannot drive to Juneau. Even though it's a state capital, no roads in, no roads out. You can only get there by air or by water, and that's it.
Wow.
So travel is a challenge. There's over 1,000 islands. It's absolutely beautiful. And then I come to a diocese in Texas with no islands and all roads everywhere.
Yes. You went from all seafood to lots of beef here.
I know, exactly. Barbecue. Whenever I say moving from Juneau to Dallas, I've jokingly called it climate change. So I just really look at it as a seismic change for me. But you know, it's not like I'm foreign to the work or the volume. When I was in Pittsburgh, I was the director of clergy personnel for over 400 priests. And at the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops, we had some phenomenal programs that we put together, you know, with the Apostolic Seminary Visitation, as well as the rewriting of the program of priestly formation for seminaries. and then I was the executive director of the video Fishers of Men. So it was all
Oh,
the
yes.
that we did. It was exciting.
Yes, yes. I would love to. Maybe in one of our future interviews, we can go a little bit over the formation you gave, the priestly formation.
Oh,
What
sure.
are some of the new things you discovered? What are some of the different ways you are forming? Because the formation of the priests in the last probably 6 or 7 decades have changed quite a bit. It probably had its ups and downs. So I'm sure you have done a lot of research into, and it'll be nice to explore that a little bit. So
I'd be more than happy.
similar to Pete in Juno asked you a question that kind of made you baffled a little bit, maybe. I have one like that. Did you ever use the staff to either push someone or pull someone back the way it was meant for shepherds to have the staff back in the day?
Well, I could have used that. I walked to work every day. Um, I lived on an island, and sure enough, I encountered bear, porcupine, and it would be good to have a little bit of defense, during moments like that. The eagles are just plentiful. They're just everywhere. When I first got there, they wanted me to go to St. Francis Chapel at Tennessee Springs, and
Mhm.
I said, "Sure." I said, you make the schedule. My calendar's wide open. I just need to get out and meet everybody in the diocese." And they said, "Good. Your first Sunday, you're going to St. Francis Chapel, Tennessee Springs." I said, "What time does Mass start?" They looked at me like I was crazy. They said, "What time does Mass start, Bishop? It starts when you get there." So it was one of the things that here's what happened is that the float plane came and it landed in front of everybody's house. It was a village of 600 people. And so everybody would hear the plane, they would see the plane, their houses were all tiered up on the mountain, so they would all see the water. And when that plane landed, they knew that Mass would start 20 minutes afterwards because the chapel was right there on the water. It was
Yeah.
absolutely beautiful.
So it's kind of like how the churches used to have bells. Well, I mean, churches still have them. Quite a
That's
few of
it.
them kind of turned electric,
That's
the
it.
electronic ones. But
That
yeah, they
float
heard the
plane,
bells ring and they came.
that float plane became like the modern church bells, calling
Yeah.
everybody to the chapel.
From your Juno experience, and then you have this like big city Dallas experience, and all of a sudden with COVID, I'm sure it's starting to feel like Juno again.
You're right. You're so very right. There are so many similarities with the isolation and the separation. The one thing that I found to be a challenge in Juneau, Alaska, is being separated from family and friends, and
Mhm.
the separation is real. The isolation is definitely real. While it can be a challenge, you always look for the ways in which you can be creative with the challenges. For me, I really cherish my prayer time during moments like this. I've really my time in chapel before the Blessed Sacrament is for me a very important and foundational time of my day. So
Wonderful.
I just cherish that. And then what I also like is that I'm not rushed out of the chapel. And
Right.
so the schedule isn't as unforgiving as when everybody's up and running and I have to go here and I have to go there. So I really appreciate that.
So you've had a chance to spend a little bit more time in the chapel, which is good for all of us because you're praying for us. And in
Yeah.
addition to that, have you maybe have you read any new books that you'd like to share with us? Anything exciting you read or learned? Maybe you picked up how to like sword fight, new talents there. Ah!
Yo tengo clases de español 3 días a la semana. Yo necesito ayuda con mi español porque mi español es malo. So so I'm trying to learn Spanish. I'm trying to focus a lot of energy on, the Spanish. I have a fine, a fine tutor, and
Wonderful.
yeah. So
Well,
that's definitely something.
I don't know what you just said. I look a little bit brown, but I'm not Spanish. I'm from India, so I'm sure you knew that.
But
That's great. You're learning.
that's exactly right. I mean, we have such a large Hispanic community, and they're so very patient with this obispo gringo, because I try and I celebrate mass in Spanish, but it's not
Mhm.
perfect. And
Wait,
I'm grateful.
spoken Spanish is different from mass Spanish, I guess.
Yeah,
That's
yeah.
fantastic. Any other creative new things you've had time or luxury to
Well,
learn or enjoy?
just like everybody else, you spend time baking bread. So I've done all kinds. I've done the pizza crust. I've done pie crust. I have done baguettes. My
Wow,
favorite has been my hamburger buns, and
really?
making my own hamburger buns because I love grilling. And so grilling up my burgers, and then making your own bun, with the bun being so fresh, and then not only baking it fresh, no matter how fresh it is, I still grill the bun, and it just makes it so nice. So I've been creative in that regards. But with regards to this whole pandemic and church, the one thing I, of course, knew is that we were going to go online. We were going to go video streaming all the masses we possibly can. I said, let's search out the TV networks. Let's see what we can do to get these things televised. I said, it's fine that we're going to be, but sure enough, and I got some hand wringers in the diocese. They go, oh, Bishop, but it's going to cost too much. Oh, it's going to be a lot of work. It's just like, we can do it. We have the technology. Let's do it. And I will say, I'm so glad that we worked with Fox 4 and Univision. And so our Sunday masses are hitting hundreds of thousands of households. And I just love it.
That's great.
Then I said to my staff, let's take it on the road. Come on, let's go to the other parishes. And so then we went to various parishes around the diocese. And then I said, let's get some priests up here to, be the homilist, and really get people an opportunity, our faithful and our parishioners, a chance to see other parishes and to listen to other priests. So we have gotten a great amount of response, a positive response for that.
I bet
And
there was a lot of
really fun.
viewership, and it's great to be on local TV because not only for those who are not able to go to church, it's everyone for a while now,
Yeah.
and non-Catholics might have stumbled upon while they're scrolling through channels. I wonder what like others thought about, or have you heard of any stories of non-Catholics watching Mass on Fox local TV station channel?
Let me tell you just some of the stories. First of all, um, people have shared with us how they've cried, in particular, medical personnel who have to work on the weekends. They get a chance to break away and watch the mass televised. Um, we have another, um, uh, in particular, I'm thinking of what Dave Moore shared with me. Dave is the musician at the masses. He and his lovely wife Lauren, who do such a wonderful job, along with Omar, in the masses. He was telling me that there are a group of non-Catholics, families, who gather every Sunday morning to watch the Catholic Mass, because this group of non-Catholics would never step into a Catholic church, but they're curious. And so they're, from the safety of their living room. They can see the inside of Catholic Church, um, and then they talk about the Mass. And as they talk about the Mass, they have a real discussion about it. And then afterwards, they have brunch together. So it really has become a Sunday ritual for them. Now, this has prompted me in one of the Sunday televised Masses. I'm not going to have a homily. I want to go through and describe why it is we do every bit of the Mass, all the way from the penitential rite, the liturgy of the word, through the homily and then the preparation of the gifts, why it is we use what we have, why it is we have what we have. Um, so I'm looking forward to doing something like that, for the future.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then we got this one letter, and they were asking us for permission, and they don't have to because it's on the web and it's on TV.
Right.
But this one prison system
Mhm.
in New Mexico asked for our permission to use our recorded masses because they were so pleased with our masses that they started to air them in the public open population of the prison. And then they also started to pipe it into the individual cells of all the prisoners within this prison system. And so then I cannot forget to mention all the people who are elderly and have not been to church in years, despite of it, even before the pandemic, who now said, "I feel reconnected again because of these televised masses," and they're just profoundly grateful that once again they can pray with the Catholic community.
This is some good news, Bishop. This
Yeah,
is
so
really
whenever you
great
talk
news.
about, one of the things that has been creative, it's not like it's anything new. Dioceses have been doing this for ages, but it's new for the Diocese of Dallas, and I'm glad to see it. I'm glad to
In the
see it.
church, I mean, EWTN and other great Catholic TV networks, they have done some
Right.
live masses and everything. But I think what's unique from this experience, because due to
You know,
COVID,
it,
live masses, some people have had a chance to see their own church, their own bishop, their own pastor. So that I think is special to some elderly who have not been able to go to church for a long time. And that is something from their own city, from their own community. They recognize people and priests and music and everything. I think that's fantastic. You were going to say something.
well, I was just going to say that in the 1980s, early 80s, the Catholic population was at 5%, if that. There were only 185,000 Catholics in the Dallas area. And so it was about 5%, and there were less than 200 priests then at the time. Today, in 2020, we are at 1.3 million Catholics, and the diocese is smaller now because it no longer has Fort Worth or Tyler. Um, and we're at 1.3 million Catholics. We still have less than 200 priests, but we are now at over 30% of the population.
Wow.
And with that, we are the largest faith community in the Dallas Fort Worth area.
Wow.
I share that because if we're the largest faith community, then we have a responsibility. We have work to do. I mean, if we are the disciples of Jesus Christ here in this Metroplex, then the Catholic community definitely needs to step up when it comes to immigration issues, pro-life issues, family issues, and serving the poor, and just reaching out, being of service to people in need. And I'm absolutely proud and impressed with the members of our Catholic community. Again, they're so faithful, dedicated, committed, and generous. It's impressive.
That's great. Many great things are happening here, that's for sure. So thank you for shepherding all of that and helping guide the diocese. It is, as you said, there are a lot of people, 1.3 million people, and that are Catholic, 30%. That's a huge jump, which is like with great numbers come great responsibilities. So one of the things I wanted to ask now, from that big number, due to COVID and not going to church, like I wonder how many people actually also, those who are kind of struggling with their faith, this is a time of despair where maybe when churches open up completely, some of them may not be coming back. I mean, Pope Benedict, I heard in one of his talks or books I read a while ago that he said church will be small before it is big again. So I wonder if he's prophetically saying this is the time, or we have more coming up. But how do we uh, process all of this, and how do we encourage those who are almost in their minds checked out? They don't want to come back after so long back to the pews. What do you have to say?
Well, I was absolutely impressed when I started to receive pictures of family members gathered around their TV sets on Sunday morning, participating in the televised mass. Um, Absolutely impressed, and also absolutely impressed that it was on the front page of the paper Easter Monday. You know, after the big celebration of Easter, all within quarantine type of an environment, um, people got a glimpse of how Catholics prayed, and that whole family was kneeling in their home, as you can see on the screen, um, that it was during the consecration. I was very pleased because I find that to be a moment of evangelization,
Mhm.
to really speak about the sacredness of the act that we celebrate in the Eucharist and at Mass. Something far different than our evangelical brothers and sisters, non-Catholics, and other faith communities. So it was a glimpse for them into what we do. What we need to do is then just seriously strengthen our domestic churches, the families in our community. I wanted so bad to be able to be out there providing every household with rosaries and Bibles and devotionals and everything that's necessary for them to stay strong in the faith, with a schedule of everything that we're doing online. And it's important to do that. I think that we should never grow weary of equipping our people with the necessary spiritual tools, because our faith is rich and our faith indeed has everything for anyone, to grow in the relationship with Jesus Christ.
That's beautiful. It is. We all need to like have that discipline, and
Yeah.
it is wonderful. You wish you can give so many resources, and many resources are out there,
Mm-hmm.
many online, and a lot of people have great books and everything. So this is a great time to dive into. And uh, do you worry that people might stop going to church? Some, obviously, majority will continue. But after this, do you think there will be a dip?
I think we have to jumpstart the spiritual heart. And I share this, that when in medical procedures, when they get the paddles out and they put the little ointment on them and they rub them together and they put the paddles in the heart and clear, boom, boom. You know, I think we're gonna have to do that to the faithful, because, like I said earlier when we were chatting casually, I think it's going to be a challenge to get people off their couches for Sunday morning, and back
Yes.
into the pews, of course, safely,
Right.
when the day comes.
Mhm.
I will forever remain concerned about our elderly population,
Yes.
This disease is real. My best friend from high school died last week because of
Oh,
COVID.
sorry to hear that.
We just grew up together and vacationed together and I officiated his wedding. It's just like and now he's gone. It's real, um,
Yes.
and so we just have to make sure that we're safe in the process.
Yes.
So um,
Yes.
yeah, when that vaccine comes out, and there will be the long lines to get it, and then there will be a day that we'll be able to exchange the sign of peace once again.
Once again, yeah, can't wait. Can't wait. I'm sure you've been dying for that day yourself. So it'll be fantastic. And interestingly, I mean, probably you can relate to this a little bit more. For me, my spouse, my wife Lindsay, and we have 4 children. So even though there is quarantine and isolation and everything, for us, it's like family vacation. And you probably have brother priests living in the quarters with you. I don't know that, or you are by yourself. But to relate with young adults, there are a lot of single men and women living in their own apartments. They don't have parents or siblings living with them. Some of them don't even have roommates, and they are probably feeling a lot more isolated, definitely a lot
Mhm.
more than how I'm feeling. What encouragement do you have for them, and how have you built community in this isolating period of time?
Well, I much like what we're doing now, I had no idea that there was such a thing called Zoom, but and Zoom has become a way of life. It really has. There's um, you know, I still FaceTime with my family, and you got visitors right behind you too.
Yes.
Look at
Sophie,
that.
come
That is
in.
great.
Say hello real quick.
Hi.
How are you?
Good.
Good to see you. What's your name?
Sophia.
Sophia. Thanks for letting your dad have some time with me.
Say you're welcome.
You're welcome.
Close the door. Sorry
Bye,
about.
Sophia. See you. God bless.
Okay, say bye.
Bye.
Thanks. That kind of stuff is a joy,
It
an
is.
absolute joy. Oh,
So yes, you were sharing about how Zoom has been a way to
yeah,
connect with people. So that's
exactly.
wonderful.
Exactly. I actually thought that I could be far more productive during this time of pandemic, when in actuality, I have been busier than anything. And so some of the books I thought, oh, sure, I can read this. I've only, I've only seen 3 movies since the whole pandemic has started, you know, and it's I just thought that I could tackle a little more Spanish and things.
Yes,
But life is brisk. Things are
it
going
is.
fast, even with this pandemic. It's hard to believe that school's ramping up and getting back into session. And we have wonderful Catholic school system here, and yeah, it's great to see that happening. The uncertainty of it all is what weighs heavy on
Right,
everyone's mind. The
right.
other sad thing that comes out of this is the civil unrest that has
Mhm.
occurred, in our country, um,
Yes,
with the unfortunate and untimely and horrendous death of George Floyd. So all of that is weighing heavy on our the soul of this country too.
it is.
So
It is.
you have to hold on to your faith, and you have to hold on to Christ's teaching in order to navigate through all of this, whether it is the embracing of the dignity of every human life, to recognizing that everyone's body is a temple and that we have to really care for ourselves and each other. all of this has to be rooted in our faith.
Amen. Amen. And it is, yes, John Paul, Saint Pope John Paul II is like his message about dignity of human person. And I mean, many others talked before him too. It is, yes, right now, this civil unrest you're talking about, it has become so big and it is worldwide. And sadly, the timing is so bad with the virus. These protests are probably causing more illness, and but at the same time, there are some problems in our communities, and it's probably a different discussion whether it is really racial or it's a problem of morality or immorality, I should say. And if we all just love our neighbors like Jesus asks us to, uh, whether it is the race or class or creed, like none of those things will really matter. We will not have these issues. And you're right, we have to hang on to our faith and the teachings of the church. And they guide us through these difficult times. And there have been so many of this before, and there will be more to come. So right now, what we're going through will be over, and the church will be beautiful, and the springtime is coming. So you mentioned, in addition to learning Spanish, you mentioned you've read a lot of books and watched 3 movies. What movies did you watch?
Oh, wow. Actually, it was one movie, and I forget the names of these movies. That's the sad thing.
That's okay.
One movie was about a dog, and it actually took place, and the movie was set in my former diocese of Juneau, Alaska, because it was about this dog who this one prospector pretty much adopted, and he was up in the Klondike Gold Rush, and which was in my former diocese. So I watched that, and another movie was about Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. So, and
it sounds like you watch a lot about Pittsburgh. It sounds like you're missing home, Bishop.
Oh, you know what? I bleed black and gold. Pittsburgh Steelers, things like that. But as I mentioned to the good faithful here, but as the shepherd, I'm one with my flock, and so I'm a Cowboys fan too.
Yes. So now your loyalties are split between 2.
Well, if they ever play each other, yeah, the bishop would have a conflicted conscience.
Yes. Good thing it's not immoral in such case. So wonderful. Well, thank you very much for your time. And this is
Adnan,
great.
It's great being with you and all the good people you serve. I just want to support you in your work and in your ministry and all that you do. And for everybody who's watching this, just to stay healthy and remain faithful.
Thank you, Bishop.